I have a dream.
It's one small step for man.
I am the greatest.
You want something, go get it. Period.
What's up, my fellow dreamers, doers, achievers? This is episode number 9 of the Dream Big podcast, and we're going to dive right in. Richard Branson once said, "You don't learn to walk by following rules. You learn by doing and by falling over." This podcast is sponsored by Stu United and Tech Roots Academy. Like we always say, we want our sponsors to align with our dreams and aspirations for Dream Big. And these companies both do that. They are both striving for something greater and something more. Their whys are beautiful. So the first sponsor we want to talk about is Stu United. Stu United is an app for students to match and connect based on their academic skill sets. Struggling in English but good in math? Stu United will provide you with a card stack of other users to swipe on. Swipe right on students that complement your skills and find your StuMate today. You can find Stu United on the App Store since it is only available on iOS for now. Android's coming soon, many improvements coming soon, and on social media at Stu United App or StuUnitedApp.com. Also, this podcast is sponsored by Tech Roots Academy. Tech Roots is a company that goes to schools, libraries, and conducts camps in which they teach young kids the basics of computer programming. They already have 65 locations and have helped 3,000 students in only 2 years' time. The founder saw a lack of education in the field of programming within the educational system, so they are filling that gap by educating children as much as possible and making sure those skills are rooted in them throughout their lives. You can find Tech Roots at techrootsacademy.com and on social media at tech_roots. The guest for today's episode is someone I came across this past year, even more so these past couple months, and I was extremely interested to hear his story, things he's learned, how much he's grown, and his opinion on other topics, the music industry. So I really wanted to have him on. And to give you a little background, the guest, Timmy, is someone who has a significant following on social media, is doing great things with music, has a significant following on YouTube and for his music as well. And here's a little sneak peek of his music.
I said I'm the one, it's never been done, I sit on the sun, it's too high to jump, I don't kick, I don't punt, I never could run, I do for the fun, I said I'm the one,
That is something he's working on now, which is great stuff. But even beyond the surface, he is a great person. He has a message and a purpose behind what he's doing and what he talks about in his songs, and you will realize that throughout this talk, throughout this episode. So enjoy and have a good listening experience. Starting off, I've been looking at your story, Timmy. I've been looking at what you've been doing the last couple of years, what you have done, and I think it's truly amazing, the audience you have and the height you reach so far at such a young age.
Thanks, dude.
So for the people listening, we're going to introduce Timmy Brabston. So who is Timmy Brabston?
Who is Timmy Brabston? Well, I guess, I don't know, I'm still young, I'm still working, I'm still trying to find my own sound, even though I've put out a ton of stuff. I still don't think I've reached that point, but, I feel I'm really self-motivated. I try to be as creative as possible, and I try to be myself. Like, a lot of people ask me, compare yourself to a certain artist, you know what I mean? I'll be like, I take bits and pieces, but I never like to compare myself to someone because I'm always I'm the first Timmy Brabston, you know what I mean? I don't want to be the next, because then it's kind of just a knockoff. People are like, oh, I've heard this already, you know what I mean? So I like to talk I give it a new perspective, new art to people. Yeah.
So where are you from?
Mahwah, New Jersey.
Mahwah, okay.
Bergen County.
Around the same area, sort of. It's funny that we ended up here in Philly together.
Yeah, right.
What made you get into the whole music scene, rapping scene? Because you can look his name up on YouTube, wherever on the internet. You'll see videos pop up. He has a recent or a younger fame, and it's just amazing to see. So if you just want to talk about that.
Yeah, so I guess honestly my love for music, as funny as it sounds, my love for rap started with my mom. We used to drive around and we used to listen, when I was in like 5th grade, we used to listen to like Eminem and Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, like all the old stuff together, which is funny to look at now. But I guess going from there, I was like super shy when I was little, so like I've always been into English, writing poetry, stuff like that. And then I guess it kind of grew into rap because I always loved rap. I love growing with the tides going, like seeing like Lil Wayne and Eminem grow and stuff like that, seeing Drake come out. And I was like, damn, I mean, I love to write. I like to do stuff like that. I like to be creative. So I was like, I might as well try and make my own music. And then it kind of just grew from there, you know? I mean, like, I could go on and on talking about all, like, the different people that influenced me and all the stuff that happened. But, I mean, I guess the end of the day, it was just wanting to be creative and wanting to do something that was different from what everyone else was doing, you know what I mean? Like, everyone, when they were little, they're like, oh, I want to be in the NFL. I want to be in the NBA. I'm like... I mean, I like that. I love playing sports, but at the same time, I'm like, I like doing music. It's different. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Are you into drawing at all? Because that's like, I found myself in the same sort of shoes as you when I was younger. I had this little habit of, I would draw all the time. I was a really good artist. And I just love being creative and like building something up. Yeah. So I find myself, you know, at this young age, I really want to build up a company, a startup, or just even this Dream Big in general, this podcast. And it's just so awesome to mold something into my own thing and not try to follow anyone's path.
Yep,
I know you were talking about, create your own path.
Yep, that's like the same thing I'm kind of doing. I mean, I'm a terrible artist. Like, I can't draw at all. Yeah. So, I mean, like, the only art I was really left with was music. But, like, I love doing music for the same kind of thing you said. Like, I like being able to just make my own path and be able to go in my basement and write to whatever I want to, write about whatever I want to, and then make a song. If I feel like playing something, I'll just play on the piano or something like that and come up with something. Exactly, just get lost in it and kind of come up with whatever comes to my head. Yeah.
And do you want to give a little story of, I know you said you went on tour, so being like 19, 20, almost, or your birthday this year?
Yeah, well, February. So I turned 19 in February.
Okay. Yeah. So 19, he already toured at 18 years old with a person, if you want to highlight that.
Yeah, so that's actually a crazy story because...
Please, we're all best stories.
It dates back super far to when I was 14, to when I first went to a studio, right? Mm-hmm. And the studio I happened to go to was run by this dude named Biggs, who's like my manager now, I guess you could say. And... his girlfriend is this famous R&B singer, Chrisette Michele. So she, I guess she's most known for being on the hook of the song Aston Martin Music, which is with Drake and Rick Ross. So just by that connection alone, they were like, yo, you should come open up on her tour for this new album. So I got to travel 20 cities throughout the country with them from the summer to the winter and open up for her at every show. And it was honestly incredible. It was because her fans, she's older, so her fans are like 30s and 40s, but like her fans love her to death. Like, it's like a cult-like following. So they're there at every show, and it was like packed house every night, and it was so much fun, dude. It was such a great experience.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people that I've talked to, we always somehow get back to the topic of traveling. I'm sure, like...
Really?
Yeah, it's so funny, because, like, I'm going to ask you the same question, but how has that traveling or, like, just seeing all those things at such a young age helped you even more?
I mean, it gives me a different perspective of how the demographic throughout the country works, because you know what I mean? I mean, besides that tour, I also did a little thing in Sweden, but we can get into that later. But so it's just cool to see how the people in Denver can have such a different music taste from the people where I'm from in New Jersey, but at the same time still love the music that I'm making in New Jersey over there. So it's cool. I mean, plus just getting to see the country. I mean, I was born in California, but I moved when I was 1, so I don't remember it or anything like that. And being able to go back out over there and just see the rest of the country was wild to me.
Yeah, like, California's like a different world. I've been there before.
It is.
Yeah.
It's so much slower.
Yeah, and that even, you can diverge into the topic of, you know, culture and, like, environment. It's funny to see how, you know, New York City, the way it is, maybe there's a certain taste or culture to the music they listen to. You know, I think music is such a magnifying glass into what the culture is or what era we're in. So I mean, you saying that, and what do you think about culture right now, the music being put out now, the possibility with all these platforms to, like, make music every day? I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, well, that's the way, I mean, I guess that's also what helped me get into music, because obviously before I started having a fan base, it's not like I was having any income or anything. You know, I was 14 years old. I was, like, just chilling in ninth grade. So, I guess, really, it's nice to have all these platforms, all these things you can just download on your computer and just make music on your own. That's kind of like, I never learned an instrument when I was young. I mean, I played guitar here and there, I played drums here and there, but I'm, like, self-taught to what I've done to this point. So it's cool to be able to have all these things, even SoundCloud, to upload your music for free. Like, it's sick to see how you can do all that now. And just 10 years ago, like, you couldn't get music unless you were buying it off iTunes strictly, like, and that's the only way people got it out, and that's how artists got most of their money. And now you look at it and it's like, they get no money from streaming. They get, like, such a small margin of money, and they get most of their money from touring and labels. So, like, it's cool to see how now artists really have such a different and much broader point of access to the industry, you know what I mean? Like, kids can really pick it up whenever they want to and try, and if they have the talent that they might not have been able to exploit necessarily 10 years ago, now they have the opportunity to.
Yeah, and if people complain, this is my one pet peeve, if people complain about not having any fame yet, or, like, being a lack of patience, or in the music industry, or not having a bigger audience than they should, just keep producing music, and you have all these platforms. Like you said, 10 years ago, people couldn't do this. I'm sure if the people 10 years ago were here now, they would be extremely grateful for all these things they have.
Exactly,
You just gotta be grateful and just keep plugging away. And then, like you said, the other thing, it's self-taught. A lot of things I've learned moving away to Philly is self-taught, and a lot of things I'm doing now I'm learning on my own, and I think it's much better to experience things and learn things on your own and say yes before you even know how to do them. So I, like, say you go to a job, you should say yes before you even know how to do it, because through that, difficulty, through that experience, you'll learn more than, sitting back not taking a job.
Exactly. You got to learn somewhere, because if you say, it's like MJ, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Like that.
Exactly. Would you want to get into the story about Sweden as well?
Yeah. So I guess that came from the same connection, because I guess knowing Chrisette and knowing my manager, they had all these connections all over New York, stuff like that. And they know these people who run a studio, Slow Motion Sounds, out in Sweden. And they actually have a really cool opportunity for up-and-coming artists. What they do is they reach out to people like my manager who they know, and they're like, hey, like, we're not doing anything this week. Like, do you have any new artists? And what they did was they reached out to me, and me and my DJ and my mom and my brother went out to Sweden. I was 17, just turned 17 at the time. And we spent a week there, and what they do is you live with them, and we hang out with them in a house across from where they live. And they have a studio in their basement, so you go out during the day, you go to schools, you perform at the schools, you do meet and greet, stuff like that, to kind of push the music internationally. And then at night, you go perform at clubs or whatever they have open there. And then whenever you're not at the schools or out in the towns or at the clubs performing, you get to work in their studio, and you kind of do a deal like that with them. So that was an awesome experience, being able to go there. Because I was in, like, the town of Sweden, like in, like, the town, not, like, the tourist spots.
Oh, okay.
I was on, like, the outskirts, so it was cool to see how, like, the town itself actually works. It's such a different culture just from the city in the same country. I really had such a cool view of it, and I also got to learn a lot about the culture music-wise out there.
How is it internationally? I have no idea. Like, I'm sure, I know China's a different way. Like,
I mean, every country's a different way. But, I mean, Sweden especially, Sweden's actually one of the most up-to-date on music, believe it or not, and their biggest demographic is definitely EDM and electronic, but they do have a lot of rap out there, and they have a lot of artists, R&B artists, like singers and rappers out there trying to do their thing. So it was cool. I got to meet some of the artists there too and perform with them. I still stay in touch with them now.
Building those connections. That's a perfect leeway into the thing I want to talk about. You probably have so many connections at this point through, like,
definitely.
One person. I call it the 6 degrees of networking or something. You can look it up, but something along the line, if you know someone, they'll know 6 people, and then those individual 6 people know 36 people, So I'm sure you have abundant amount of connections.
So much.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about. I mean, from all the shows, even the shows I used to do these charity shows at this little club in New York called The Bitter End. And one time I met this kid there named Skyler Allen, who was just drumming for a band at this charity event. And we got talking after, and he also rapped. And I almost ended up going to school with him in New Orleans just because we used to work together senior year of high school all the time, reaching out to each other, mailing each other tracks back and forth. He lives in New Hampshire, so we were just emailing each other stuff back and forth all the time, working together. And I almost ended up going to school because of it. And now I'm in touch with all his boys from school, all these producers down there in New Orleans, just from knowing him. So just in that circle, that's like 12 people I met just from doing that one show with him.
Yeah.
And I mean, with my manager too, like, I ended up doing that tour, and that I met 10 people that were traveling doing the sound and working the band for her, like all the dancers that were there, all these other artists that were just there just to be there because they know them, wanted to support her on her tour. Like, it's crazy. And now I can really, the best part about it is just to be humble and kind of do your thing when you're in those situations, because now I have all these relationships. If I ever need anything, you reach out to them and it's like, yeah, they got you. Like, it's such a cool industry to be in because people think it's so, I mean, it is very cutthroat on the surface when you don't know each other, but once you know each other, it's really all love, and it's all just to make music to be the best thing it possibly can be.
Yeah, it's just making it better and better. Yeah, that's awesome. So as you know, to end every interview, we ask the guest what dream they want to accomplish and what steps they're going to take to get there, and maybe some advice for a younger kid or people in the same industry as them. So Tim, I'll ask you, what is your ultimate dream? Like, it's something unrealistic. Like mine, I always go back to is go to the moon. You know, it might not seem realistic, but space travel will be around in, 3-4 decades. I think it's possible. But what's like something for you in your industry that's a really high goal for you, long-term goal, and then what steps will you take to get there that maybe you've done already, just keep replicating it going forward? Okay,
well, I mean, I guess my biggest goal is definitely to win a Grammy. Like, I feel like that's like the ultimate step for all artists. Every artist goes in there like, I want to win a Grammy. I want to be on the biggest awards show, on the biggest stage, getting the biggest accomplishment that you could have possibly done for the work that you put the last year or so effort into. And I guess that there's so many steps to get there, but the thing I find the most important that music artists really don't highlight as much as they should is just to be persistent. Like, you see all these rappers now, like Tory Lanez, Drake even, like, to get to the spot where they're at now, not a lot of people know, but even Logic too, like, they've been making music 10 years now.
Logic's story is crazy.
Logic's story is crazy. Tory Lanez's story is crazy too. Like, they've been putting out mixtapes since I started, since I was 14, and that was 12 years ago for them. And people don't know all their old music and don't know, like, their true background, but, like, they've really been doing all this stuff for so long, and the reason they're at where they are now is because they never gave up, they never stopped, they were never like, it's been 5 years and nothing's happened, like, there's no reason for me to do this anymore. I never want to look at it like that. I always want to be like, all right, this is all part of the process, like, it takes time.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you even know that right now, that awareness to consistency, patience. You're doing it for the long run.
Yeah.
You're not, and the best part is you might have those years where it's awful, but if you're doing what you love, it's not going to be awful.
Exactly.
You're just going to enjoy it.
Yep.
You know, I love that. So hopefully you guys took some gems away from this. That was very insightful, very awesome. Thank you for your story, man.
Thanks for having me on. That was really great.
We're going to keep tabs on him in the future, and also people, I'm sure they're going to want to follow you, listen to your music and stuff. If there are any platforms, social media you want to highlight for them?
So I like to keep it plain and simple. Just Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Apple Music. Everything is just Timmy Brabston. Like, make it super easy to find me. Make it super easy to go back and forth. So, just look me out there.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and what we are doing at Dream Big, it would mean a lot if you can become more involved with the Dream Big community. You can do so by subscribing to this podcast on any of the following podcasting platforms. We're on 8 channels, 8 different platforms. Our channel on YouTube at Dream Big & Co. And follow us on social media at Dream Big & Co. That will all be in the show notes, so you'll see that and you can get a direct link to those platforms. Most importantly, at the end of the day, we ultimately do this for you to add value to your lives. So if there's anything you like, dislike, or want changed, please rate this episode and leave a review. Like I said, it would truly mean a lot. And thank you, and have a great one.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.